That night when Castle Byers collapsed in the rain, Will Byers stood there with a baseball bat, tears streaming down his face as he smashed through walls built from plywood and bed sheets. He kept whispering over and over, "So stupid. So stupid." This wasn't some teenage rebellion acting out. This was a public cremation ceremony for the corpse of his childhood. After returning from the Upside Down, Will was no longer the same soul as the boy who went missing. On the surface, he came home, back to his friends. But there's one detail everyone overlooked. His internal clock had been shattered. Its fragments forever scattered in that instant, when he was dragged into that other world. In Season 3, Mike, Lucas, and Dustin were all going through their hormonal baptism. First kisses, first dates, tasting for the first time the chaos and excitement that desire brings. And Will? He wanted to play Dungeons and Dragons. He wanted to return to that time when 4 boys sat around in a basement and the world was still simple enough to contain only dice and monsters. Mike said to him, "It's not my fault you don't like girls." That line cut like a surgical knife, precisely slicing open the wound Will couldn't speak about. Not cutting through skin, but cutting through his coordinates in the system of civilized norms. The problem wasn't that Will didn't want to grow up. The problem was that he'd lost the currency needed to purchase admission to adulthood. While others were experiencing the coming-of-age rituals of adolescence, first love, kissing, sexual awakening, what was Will experiencing? Being dragged back again and again to that cold dimension, back to the certainty of, "I'm going to die here." This wasn't memory. This was time inflicting torture upon him. Psychology has a term called developmental arrest. After extreme trauma, a person's psychological development freezes at the moment the trauma occurred. Your body continues to grow, hormones continue to secrete, but your sense of self becomes like a butterfly pinned in a specimen box, forever stopped at that moment of being torn apart, wings still trembling slightly, but never able to fly again. This is why the destruction of Castle Byers matters so much. That wasn't some tender ritual of saying goodbye to childhood. That was a violent confession to the fact that there's no going back. What he smashed with that baseball bat wasn't wood, it was the social contract he once believed in. As long as I'm good enough, brave enough, normal enough, life will return to its proper track. But it won't. That contract was torn up long ago. That Will Byers who rode his bike home believing the world was safe is already dead. What survived is just a survivor wearing his skin, a breathing monument. Season 4 made us aware of an anomalous fact for the first time. The temporal state presented by the Upside Down appears frozen around November 6, 1983. Not the date in 1979 when Henry Creel, Vecna, entered that dimension. Not any other day in November of 1983, precisely the day Will Byers went missing. This precision makes the explanation of coincidence remarkably pale. The Duffer Brothers have repeatedly emphasized in interviews. Season 5 will explain why Will was first, will reveal the true nature of the Upside Down. This promise suggests an unsettling possibility, forcing us to consider that perhaps Will wasn't merely a victim of this hell, but one of the conditions allowing it to take form. Let's re-examine the chain of evidence. First, the anchor point of time, existence's timestamp. If Vecna, Henry Creel, is the master of the Upside Down, why would this dimension commemorate the day Will went missing? Henry only felt disgust and hatred for Hawkins. He wanted to destroy this town, cleanse those ordinary people, wearing masks. He intended to commit a genocide of civilization. So why would the Upside Down preserve every street, every house, every detail of Hawkins, and anchor time to a date that means nothing to Henry? Second, morphological attachment, the pathological imprint of love. The Upside Down isn't random interdimensional chaos. It's a perfect mirror image of Hawkins. This isn't a warlord's occupation. This is a lover's imprint, a pathological, compulsive, almost intimate desire to replicate. Only someone deeply attached to a place would unconsciously replicate it in such detail. Vecna wanted destruction and conquest. But what the Upside Down does is preservation and devotion. These are two completely different psychopathologies. Third, the specificity of connection, the umbilical cord of the soul. In Season 1, Will's voice could penetrate the walls between dimensions, as if that world actively left him a lifeline. And in Season 2, when the Mind Flayer chose a host, it chose Will. Not a stronger adult, not 11 with her superpowers, but this specific, vulnerable boy. It could parasitize his soul structure so easily, like a key sliding into a lock. Here we need to understand a key distinction. Dimension X, the original void, is not equal to the upside-down world. Season 4 revealed that when Henry Creel entered that dimension in 1979, it was a wasteland. Only storms, rocks, red lightning. No shadow of Hawkins, no traces of human civilization. But when Will fell in during 1983, that dimension suddenly had Hawkins's shape, as if someone had used a giant mold to press the soul of a town onto the skin of the void. There are two possibilities here. First possibility, Vecna used Will's memories to transform that dimension. But this explanation has a fatal flaw. Why use a 12-year-old boy's perspective? Why not use an adult, not 11, not any more useful person's memories? Why choose this specific, fragile, inadequate sample? Second possibility, Will's consciousness, in that instant of extreme fear, unconsciously imprinted that dimension. His fear, his longing, his desire for home, like a massive psychological mold, pressed the chaotic void into the Hawkins from his memory. This is trauma's alchemy, transforming fear into matter. This isn't magic. This is trauma's physics, consciousness forcing its will upon reality. In Jungian psychology, the shadow is the collection of all repressed fears, desires, and instincts in the unconscious. When trauma becomes extreme enough, this repressed content seeks an outlet, usually through dreams, hallucinations, or mental breakdown. But what if there's a real dimension, a void that consciousness can shape? Will's unconscious didn't collapse. It found an outlet. It turned the upside down into an externalized space for his internal fears. It wasn't escaping reality, but creating a substitute for reality. There it's cold, dark, with no time flowing, no pressure to grow up, no judgment of, you should like girls, no looks asking, why can't you be normal? In that world, everything stops at the moment when he still believed the world was safe. This is a child's pathological fantasy of absolute safety, a refuge that will never change, a womb of time. Even if that womb is filled with the amniotic fluid of rot and darkness. In Season 2, the scene of the Mind Flayer possessing Will is the most disturbing moment in Stranger Things. Not because of the shocking effects, but because of that sense of internal betrayal. Your body is no longer your ally, but your prison. The Mind Flayer didn't create this despair. It only exploited a crack that already existed. Deep in Will's soul, there was already a wound waiting for infection. Let's talk about that fact that can't be said openly, but everyone knows. Will Byers, in an Indiana town in the 80s, is an inadequate male specimen. On the assembly line of patriarchal quality control, he's the product marked as defective. In Season 1, school bullies gave him nicknames. But the truly lethal humiliation came from deeper, from within the family, from his father's judgment. The father's rejection wasn't random bullying. This was patriarchy, conducting the first public execution of his soul. It made Will believe from childhood, my very existence is wrong. I am a manufacturing defect. Mike's blurted, "It's not my fault you don't like girls," precisely detonated this landmine buried for years. Not malice, but something more terrifying. A rejection so natural it doesn't even require thought. An immune response from heteronormative standards. When the Mind Flayer burrowed into Will's body, it physically realized his deepest fear. My body has betrayed me. I've become what society tells me is other. This is the ultimate body horror, not an external threat, but your own flesh becoming the enemy, your body becoming the traitor. For a child going through puberty, beginning to realize he's different, this horror has dual meaning. Physiologically, my body is occupied by something foreign. I've lost sovereignty. Metaphorically, my body is becoming what society tells me is wrong. I'm experiencing a slow, irreversible alienation. The Mind Flayer offered a cruel temptation. If you let me completely devour you, you won't need to make choices anymore. You won't need to face the question, who am I anymore? You can disappear into my will, like a drop of water disappearing into the ocean. The scene of Will smashing Castle Byers was the true moment of collapse. Not possession, not monsters, but him personally destroying his own refuge. This was violent demolition of childhood. That little cabin, built from bedsheets and wood, was the last fortress of his childhood. There, he could be Will the Wise, could escape into the world of Dungeons and Dragons, could temporarily avoid facing the question of, what does the outside world expect me to become? It was his spiritual womb, his wall of the heart. But on that rainy night, he realized, this fortress can't protect anything. It's just an elaborate lie, a refuge built from wood and fantasy. He smashed it, crying while saying, so stupid. What he smashed wasn't wood, but the social contract he once believed. If I hide well enough, if I'm careful enough, if I'm good enough, I don't have to change. I can stay forever in that safe moment. But reality doesn't spare anyone. Mike will fall in love, Lucas will fall in love, Dustin will fall in love. And him? He'll continue standing at the edge, watching his friends walk into a world he cannot enter, like a ghost denied admission. That famous scene in the car. Will looks at Mike, then turns his head away, crying silently. On that fogged-up glass, in his heart, it's as if he drew something and then erased it. That's a farewell note he wrote, and burned, and wrote again. That's a sentence he wants to say, but can never say. Not, I love you, but I will never be normal like you are. What he realized in that moment wasn't simply, I love Mike, but a more desperate truth. I will never have the kind of normal they have. I am forever civilization's abandoned child. The defective product this machine of heteronormativity refuses to process. The Duffer Brothers promised Season 5 will explain why Will was first. This promise suggests a cruel possibility. Will isn't a random victim. He was chosen because he possesses some kind of connection. He's the one who can rewrite reality's code. If, just if, the Upside Down has some co-constitutive relationship with Will's unconscious, then Season 5's test for him won't just be combat. Not simply defeat the monster, but to undo, to reverse engineer the hell he created. Vecna is 001, the protagonist is 011. Their positioning always seems to be opening and closing the door to another world, but perhaps creating and destroying that world belongs to Patient Zero. Will Byers, the wiser, the sorcerer, the creator. Maybe he must personally destroy the dimension created by his fear and attachment. Destroying the Upside Down equals destroying the only safe house in his heart, that place where time will never flow, where change will never happen. This is forced expulsion from his own spiritual womb. This is magic's cruelest price. In Dungeons and Dragons, Will's character is Will the Wise, a clever sorcerer who fights with wisdom rather than strength. If this character speculation comes true in Season 5's finale, then his magic won't be fireballs or lightning, but the ability to rewrite reality's structure. He's the programmer who can rewrite the universe's source code. But what's the cost of using this ability? He must accept that time will flow, friends will change, he himself will become a stranger. He must accept that Castle Byers has already collapsed. That summer, when 4 boys sat around in the basement, has passed. Mike will never love him in the way he longs for. He must accept some wounds, even in a world of magic, cannot heal. He must accept growing up isn't returning to the past, but sacrificing that forever 12-year-old self. This is murder of the soul, where killer and victim are the same person. This is the true heroic moment, not defeating Vecna, but choosing to let go. Choosing to let the Upside Down collapse, to let that frozen time flow again, even if it means he'll also be swept away by time's flood, becoming someone he can't imagine now, even if it means personally sacrificing that child he once desperately wanted to protect. The most terrifying thing about the Upside Down isn't that there are demogorgons in the Mind Flayer there. The most terrifying thing is, it looks too much like home. It's home's corpse, meticulously made into a specimen. Every street, every house there is in its original position, just covered by vines, drowned in spores, soaked in rotting air. This isn't destruction. This is preservation, a pathological, compulsive preservation. This is a museum soaked in formaldehyde, a mausoleum built from memory. There, Castle Byers will never collapse, until Will personally destroys it in reality. Everything is preserved in that instant. That moment when they still believed the world was simple. Monsters only existed in games. This is the essence of nostalgia. It makes us believe dead things are more eternal than living things. It's a spiritual obsession with the dead. Mike said, "We're not kids anymore. What did you think? That we would sit around in my basement, playing D&D for the rest of our lives?" Time won't stop for anyone's pleading. Time is the most democratic tyrant, impartially cruel to everyone. The Upside Down is a massive metaphor. It's the materialization of that impulse, deep in all our hearts, that wants to shout, "Pause. Please, let this moment stop forever. Let me not lose this. Let me not change. Let me stay forever in that instant when I still believed the world was safe." But if you truly freeze time, what you preserve isn't life, but a corpse. A meticulously crafted corpse, protected by a glass dome. The essence of life is flow, is change, is those moments we cannot control that break our hearts, but also make us human. When you lock the world on a specific date, when you trap friends' laughter in amber, you think you're protecting beauty, but actually you're murdering the future. You're committing a slow, tender murder of time itself. This is why Will must destroy it. Not because the Upside Down is evil, but because it offers a kind of safety. Here, nothing will change. Here, you don't need to grow, don't need to change, don't need to face that helpless question, "Who am I?" But that kind of safety is the safety of a grave. That kind of eternity is death's eternity. And graves and death are precisely breeding grounds for rot, cultivating one Vecna after another. If Season 5's finale has one more self-consistent heroic moment for Will's character arc, the scene I imagine would be this. He stands at the center of the Upside Down, palm pressed against the core of that dimension. He can feel every inch of this place, because this place, to some degree, is him. This is his unconscious leaving its fingerprint in reality, his fear carving its scar upon the void. He can feel those frozen streets, those houses that will never change, that moment held in stasis. He can feel that 12-year-old self in the depths of this world, forever hiding in that corner he thought was safe. Then he lets go. He lets time flow again. He lets the Upside Down collapse. He lets those memories preserved in formaldehyde rot again, become dust again. He lets that 12-year-old Will Byers, that child who believed the world was safe, believed hiding well enough could avoid change, finally die. Because he finally understands the true wisdom of Will the Wise as a character. The real monster isn't Vecna. He's just a cheap usurper. The real monster is fear of reality and the unknown. Please, let this moment stop forever. Please, let me not grow up. Please, let me never change. That child, is more dangerous than any mind flayer. Because he kills us with tenderness, traps us in time's amber with the illusion of safety. But it cannot stop. We cannot either. Because being alive was never about preservation. Being alive was never about locking yourself on a specific date. Being alive is letting go, is sacrificing that forever 12-year-old self, is accepting time's tyranny, then finding freedom within that tyranny. Being alive is having the courage to choose rot instead of becoming a specimen. The end.